Steele Plus tour with selections for December the 2nd. And up for you today, I'll have selections for you in the FBS Conference Championship games. I'll have selections in the NFL, and I'll also have a selection in the FCS for you. All that on today's tape. Quick note for you, I will have a special about mid-tape, maybe towards the end. I like to put the specials up at the end because I only want it to go to the real Phil Steele Plus listeners, not the folks just checking it out for 5 minutes and popping off. So if you are looking for a special price on press box for the rest of the year and a little special for you this week, check out the towards the end of the tape today. But you'll notice what I have on the screen here. It's the big game. Now, generally, my philosophy, guys, I like to stay away from the biggest game of the week. The line's sharp. Everybody knows everything about the game. It's talked about by everybody in the country for long periods of time. But I'm actually going to give you a selection on this game and show you a little bit about the Phil Steele Plus site while doing it. So we got Alabama on the left, Georgia on the right. And, you know, the thing is they've had 4 mutual opponents this year. If you look at the fact that Georgia has played Auburn and beat Auburn 34-10. Georgia played Florida and beat Florida 34-7. Georgia played Tennessee and beat them 41-17. And Georgia played Arkansas and beat them 37-0. Meanwhile, in those 4 games, Bama only beat Florida by 2. They only beat Tennessee by 28. They beat Arkansas by 7, and they beat Auburn by 2. So if you're looking at that, Georgia is plus 28 points per game versus 4 common foes. Alabama's just plus 10. But look at the yards per game. Alabama's minus 115 against Florida, but plus 228 against Tennessee, plus 229 against Auburn, plus 203 against Arkansas. Meanwhile, Georgia, plus 183, plus 114, minus 1. So they were also outgained by Florida. Bet you didn't know that. And plus 100 against Tennessee. Alabama comes up actually into yardage, plus 136 yards per game, and Georgia only plus 99 yards per game. So Alabama actually has the yardage edge against the mutual opponents. Something else I want to show you here, and when you look at the site, just go to the home page, and on the home page, there is a whole bunch of FBS information here. You get, of course, the conference ATS logs, which gives you the spread records or the spreads on every game this year. Nice, neat fashion, and right here it tells you whether they won or lost against the spread. That's a spread win or loss, not a game win or loss. Also, up there under FBS info, you can get the pass efficiency defense rankings right there, which are very helpful. They're updated, and they take into account the opponent. So, as an example, I was hoping to have a quick example of somebody playing single-digit opponents, but I don't see it. But if you see somebody with an 11 right now, Toledo hasn't faced very many great passing offenses. They are allowing 55% with a 16-7 ratio. This one's allowing 60% with an 18-12 ratio, but Ohio State's better because they've taken on the tougher opponents. So that's graded in there. Also under the FBS info, you can get the special teams right here. And with the special teams, they go all the way down the line. And everybody knows who's got the better offense, who's got the better defense, who has the better special teams. Heck, while we're there, let's take a look at this game. I believe both teams have very good special teams or about in the same area. Alabama's 21 and Georgia's 26, so no real special teams edge there. Also under the FBS info, here is your offense and defense YPG versus opponent averages. Alabama is plus 253.9. Their offense gains 125.9 yards per game, more than what their opponent allows. Now, we track that right here. As you can see, it's 126, it says. And what that means is if they gain 107 yards above their opponent average, they gain 587 yards. That means New Mexico State, against all other opponents, allows 480 yards per game, but Bama got 587, so they're plus 107. Same thing on defense. Defense, they allowed 138 yards. Since it's 254 below their season average, New Mexico State generally, against all other opponents, gains 392 yards. But Bama held them to 138, which is 254 below. That's the best anybody did against New Mexico. And look at these number ones out here. Bama, number one, number one, number one, number one, number one. Everybody knows Georgia's got a great defense. I believe they have 7 number ones. Bama has 6 number ones. So that's another big plus for Bama. But anyway, if you look here, Bama's ranks fourth on offense, gaining 125 yards above opponent averages, and fourth on defense, holding opponents to 127.9 below averages. Georgia's best on defense, holding opponents to 170, but their offense only 62 yards above opponents' averages. So you add the two together, Bama actually rates better, 253 to 232 in this ranking. Up here also Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa State. I find this chart very helpful. So let's see what else we got here. As far as the, I don't want team pages. I wanted the FBS info. You can get the FBS standings right here. Of course, you can get those anywhere. You can get AP coaches poll, all conference teams. We'll have those updated pretty shortly. Injuries and transfers. These are all the different players that are gone for the year. You can circle them in your magazine. I probably should have showed you that a long time ago on this one. And then the strength of wins, pain of losses. You get credit for every FBS win your opponents have that you defeat. So Georgia's defeated teams that have won 60 games versus FBS opponents. They're number one right now. You get credit for every loss of every opponent you lose to. FIU leads the country with 68. At the bottom, you're going to notice Notre Dame. Why does Notre Dame have a 0 there? They lost a game, but they lost a game to a team that hasn't lost a game, so they still have a 0. And then here are your rankings. Georgia 60-0, Notre Dame 54-0, Cincinnati 50-0, Michigan 55-2, right down the line. I love that stat as well. But let's get back to the game itself. We've got Alabama on the left. I put Georgia on the right. They're not really the home team, but the game is in the Georgia Dome. I expect the crowd to be pretty close to even for this one. The big edge, I think you have a quarterback edge here. You've got Bryce Young, 69% with a 44 ratio, versus Stetson Bennett, a 5'11" quarterback who's hitting 65% with a 21.5 ratio. Remember Stetson Bennett in a big game against Florida last year? Then JT Daniels took over, and he was everybody's choice to start this year. Daniels got injured. Bennett's still in there. I still think JT Daniels is the better quarterback, but it is Stetson Bennett. So you got a quarterback edge going for you there. Now let's take a look at the series. And as you know, if you come down here and click on the opponent, this gives you the last 24 years of the series. So when we do that, Alabama against Georgia, you can see that Alabama has won the last 6 meetings. But let's look at how the underdogs do. Bama, as a favorite, did cover in the last game. But Bama as a favorite did not cover here. Bama as a favorite did not cover here. Bama as a dog did cover. Bama as a favorite did not cover. Bama as a dog covered. If this is green, that means the team won the game. If this is red, that means the team lost the game. If this is green, that means the team covered the game. If it is red, that means they did not cover. Here is a favorite, did not cover. So the underdog is actually 6-1 against the spread in this series. But that's not the best part that I like about this game, Bama getting 6.5. We're going to click on the last 40 years results. And by the way, let me show you a couple other things. Individual player stats, you can see how they do in every single game. Now, Brian Robinson got banged up against Auburn. He's questionable for this game. You can see what Robinson has done in every game. Here's a game Robinson missed. Roydell Williams rushed for 110 yards, but Williams hasn't rushed for any yards the last 2 games. Bama is a little banged up at receiver. Here you've got the start chart. The start chart gives you the starts all year. This will be updated very shortly all the way down to the end. Gives you the continuity on the offensive line. You can see Bama started the same offensive line every game this year. Why are they struggling? You got to wonder. And what I mean by struggling is 71 and 6 yards rushing. I love the red and the green here. The red is bad things. The green is good things. Generally with Alabama, you're going to get a lot of green things all the way across the board. But the reds do pop out. And I can't do that in the magazine. I thought it would be ideal for the magazine, but it doesn't show up as well when you put it in the magazine. It shows up really good here. The red and the green just pop out at you. But the main thing I wanted to show you, oh, by the way, draft history, you can go back and take a look at every single draft pick since the draft was started. So if you have an interest in 1936, oh, look, Paul Bear Bryant was drafted by Bama. Or was drafted by the Dodgers, who played in the NFL in the 4th round in 1936. How about that? I didn't even realize that until I just looked at the chart. That's every player who's ever drafted. This breaks it down, how many in the 1st round, how many in the 2nd round, how many in the 3rd round, or how many in the 1st round here, how many in the 2nd round here, how many in the 3rd round here. Then if you go to the one I want to show you really on this is last 40 years results. Now, if you go back to Bama, how often are they an underdog? Well, it's not very often. In fact, if you go to my Twitter, I know I retweeted Brad Edwards. Brad's got a great book out, by the way. He just put it out. Let me go to profile here. My Twitter is at Phil Steele 042. He put the stat up as far as the games. Brad Edwards, there he tweeted us out. Let's see what we got here. Brad Edwards. You see, I post a lot of stuff. So, I mean, if it's happening in college football, I should be posting it up here. You can just keep track of what's going on. There's your Broyles Award finalists. I'm voter on that. Voter on every award, except for the Butkus, by the way. Oh, here it is. Streaks of 92 and 72 games as a favorite that sandwiched the 2015 trip to Georgia are the longest on record. The next longest is 54. So 54 was the longest streak to be favored in games. Bama has a streak of 92 broken this week and had a streak of 72. And to show you that, this is every single game spread all the way back to 1976. 45 years worth of spreads all the way back to here. If they were in a bowl game, it's there. If they were a favorite or a dog, it's there. Starting here, we started logging the half times. And here we started logging the over-unders. They didn't even have over-unders back in 1998. They had it maybe on a few marquee games. Here they started putting it on every game, so we started logging the totals. But I put it in red for you on this one. Favored in every game. Here they were a dog. 2015, they were a dog to Georgia, +1. They won 38-10. They led 24-3 at the half. That's the last time Alabama was an underdog. Haven't been an underdog all year this year, naturally. Prior to that, favored in all these games, they were a dog against Florida in the SEC championship game, a 5-point dog. They won the game 32-13, led the game 19-13 at the half. So those are the only two times, and since 2009, that Alabama has been a dog. Both times they won the game convincingly. So I'm not going to pass up the chance to take Alabama as a dog. I do think Georgia's the better team. I think there's a great chance Georgia wins this game, but I think it'll be close. You go back and look at the Georgia-Florida game, for example. That was played here. When Georgia played Florida in Jacksonville, it looks like a blowout, 24-0 at the half. Look when these scores came, 2:16, 1:35, and 7 seconds. And this is courtesy of collegepressbox.com. Love the fact that Ted lets me put the box scores on my site. I use these things all the time. I go through the play-by-play of every game. These give you everything down the line. There, if you want the quick version of what happened in the game, I prefer to go through. There's your starters, by the way. I prefer to go through every play of the game. I look at it, and I act like I'm watching the game. I've watched the games live, but when you're watching 12 games, you don't pick up everything. Let's face it. But you pick up most of it. You don't pick up everything. Well, I like to pick up everything, so I go through the play-by-play of the game. And if we take a look at the end of the first half here, it's Georgia is leading 3-0, and Florida gets the ball, and right here they fumble, and there is not much time left in the half. So 2:22 left in the half. Georgia gets a 11-yard touchdown run, one play after a fumble. Then Florida's intercepted. Georgia gets a 36-yard touchdown pass with 1:35 left. Then Florida still's being aggressive. They're going for it. They get intercepted, return 50 yards for a touchdown on the last play of the half. How about that? 3 touchdowns, and all of a sudden a 3-0 game with 2:30 to go turns into 24-0. So if they didn't have those mistakes, it's not like they dominated the second half either. They only won the second half of that game 10-7. So they didn't exactly dominate Florida. They had a great 2 minutes, which turned that game into a blowout. But other than that, it wasn't a dominating game. So add it all up, it's the biggest game of the week. I'm not wild about going on biggest games of the week. I don't like even betting on the Super Bowl because everybody knows everything about it. It's the most talked about game. This is sort of like the Super Bowl. It's the SEC championship game. But I am going to take Alabama. I just can't pass up the chance to take Alabama as a dog. We're going to take Alabama +6.5. All right, let's grab another game for you, and it's USC against California. Now, I have to be honest with you. On last week's Phil Steele Plus tour, I put a pick out on BYU -7. You guys know that. You watched the tour. I figured USC quit. And guess what? Let's go back to the box score again. Here's the box score of the game. Watching the game, it's late at night. Guys, it is late at night. BYU leads this thing 21-10. At this point, I am super comfortable. USC's going to fold their tent. They've quit on the season. There's no reason to play. They're out the door. And then what happens? USC comes back, gets a touchdown. They get a touchdown. It's 28-13. Okay, it's all BYU, right? USC, touchdown. USC, touchdown. And Dart had a big game, by the way. And now USC's winning, 31-28. BYU had to get a touchdown with 3:57 left to pull it out. And BYU, by the way, pulled to 5-0. Let's go click them on the board here real quick. 5-0 in the Pac-12. You can crown BYU the Pac-12 champs, especially if Utah wins the Pac-12 title game tonight. They beat Arizona. They beat Utah. They beat Arizona State. They beat Washington State. And they beat USC. 5-0 in Pac-12 play. What a job Kalani Sitake's doing. But let's get back to this game. So you got California on the right. I had thought USC quit for the season. They haven't. And now, here's the thing. Lincoln Riley is the new head coach, right? And all of a sudden, a bunch of Oklahoma players just entered the transfer portal. Well, if I'm a USC player, where do you think those Oklahoma players are going to end up? Oh, USC. So now I'm almost fighting for my scholarship, for crying out loud. I'm fighting for playing time next season. I'm fighting to impress Coach Riley. So if I'm USC players, first of all, I'm excited that Coach Riley's coming out. We got a chance. We're going to contend for the Pac-12 next year. Lincoln Riley is here. So I'm excited in that respect if I'm a player. I'm not quitting on the season. And do you want to give a lackadaisical performance against California with Lincoln Riley taking over, knowing that you might not have a job next year if that happens, right? So that's one reason to like USC in this game. Take a look at USC. Minus 15 yards per game at home. And let's face it, the home crowd's not an SEC home crowd when you play USC on the road, or when you play at USC. But look how they do on the road. They're plus 87 yards per game. They outgained Washington State by 168, Colorado by 252. They even outgained Notre Dame in their game. And so they are plus 87 yards per game in SEC play, or on the road, I should say, on the road. So that's another plus. Now here's this about Justin Wilcox. And you're going to have to go back and check your logs. Now, next year, by the way, on this Phil Steele Plus, we've got logs in the magazine, and I refer to them all the time. It's the last 10-year spread logs. They cover home, away, neutral, conference, non-conference, home favorite, home dog, away dog, neutral, conference, non-conference, win, off, straight up win, off, straight up loss. 6 of those categories are straight up. The rest of them are ATS. I've got another chart, which we use internally here, and it has got 27 categories against the spread. 20-plus favorite, 20-plus dog, 14-plus. They're all covered. I'm going to post those on Phil Steele Plus next year. Also on Phil Steele Plus, and we'll be working on it in the offseason. By the way, we've already started on the magazine. So it's already, we started on Sunday night on the magazine. So we are heading on day 5 of the magazine right now. And on Sunday, it'll be day 8 of the magazine, actually, because it'll be the second week of the magazine. I'm starting to break down their 40-some teams whose seasons are complete. We can finalize their stats, start writing their write-ups for next year. This is a process, writing the magazine. It's a 6.5-month process, and we have begun it already. But anyway, we are going to bold, unbold these winners. If you're a winner of the game, we're going to bold it, and that'll be all set for you for the season, just like it is in the magazine. So that's one plus. All right, now, if you do go back and look at the spread logs, click over to the California page, and if you include this year's results, Justin Wilcox is 13-2 against the spread as an away dog. So put this guy on the road as a dog. Justin Wilcox is phenomenal. How does he do as a home favorite? How about 3-11-1? So this will be your angle game of the week, I'll say. If you basically take the away dog in a Justin Wilcox game, you go 24-5-1 his last 30 games. Plus, Cal's a 4.5-point favorite. And if you think Cal is in great momentum right now, they just lost to UCLA 42-14. They only gained 217 yards. You know USC's got the better players. I feel they have the motivation. Now let's take a look at how the teams do in the series. USC has actually been favored 26 straight years in this series. How do they do at California? Here's a win. 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 That's 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 straight wins in the series for USC on the road here at California. So they've won that many in a row. They're 15-1 straight up. This is the only time they lost was here at home in 2018. Once again, green means you won the game. You don't even have to look at the score. You can tell whether they won or lost right there. Over here, it tells you what the home team and visitor does. And as you can see, if this is in green, that means the home team covered. If it is in red, that means the visitor covered. And that's true with USC going 15-1 straight up in the series. They have covered the majority of the games. So you've got a team that's been favored 26 straight years. That's a dog. You got a team that's won 7 straight years here in Berkeley. That's a dog. You got a team that plays better on the road. You got Justin Wilcox's games. The away dogs are 24-5-1. And you got a team playing because Lincoln Riley has taken over. And I can see the enthusiasm at USC, and you better impress your new boss. We're going to take USC plus 4.5 over California. All right, let's get to the NFL. I'm going to take a break again, and that's when I'll come back with the special for you. But let's go to the NFL for a moment. And one thing I do want to show you here, let's take a look at a team like Michigan. See Michigan. You can go back and look at Michigan all the way back, color-coded red and green, and that takes you all the way back to 2011. That's at your fingertips right there. If you click on the last 40 years results up here, you can get down here. It tells you who the coach is. So Jim Harbaugh took over in 15. There's his record each year. Brady Hoke took over here. There's his record. Rich Rod here. Lloyd Carr here. Gary. That's on every team, all the way back to 1988. Stats, all the way back to 1988. This is it's like your encyclopedia. The younger generation won't know what an encyclopedia is, but it used to be what you had on your book thing when you didn't have the internet to go look up stuff. But it's all there. Now you have the internet to use it as an encyclopedia. You've got all that information. All right, let's go to the NFL right now and take NFL here and NFL here. And we've got Las Vegas against Washington. Then click on the NFL over here. We are going to put Washington on the left, and we are going to put Las Vegas on the right. And I'm first of all going to go to my NFL part here, and we're going to look at 2 different things. So for the NFL info, you can click on offense yards per game versus defense yards per game. Now, Las Vegas is not at the top of this chart, but they have played it. You've got to admit they're playing in a better division. They're playing in the AFC West. Vegas is actually plus 26 yards per game above their opponent averages. Washington's playing in a weaker division. And in Washington, they're actually minus 3 yards below opponent averages. So this says Vegas, even playing the tougher schedule, is number 11. Washington's number 19. So it says Vegas is a better team, correct? Let's go back to the NFL info again. And we are going to take a look at the NFL strength of wins, pain of losses. You get credit for every win that an opponent has. You get credit for every loss that an opponent has that you lose to. The Raiders have beaten teams that have won 36 games this year. Washington has beaten teams that have only won 25 games this year. Down here adds them all up. Washington is 25-27. So they beat teams that have won 25 games. They've lost to teams that have lost 27. Vegas has beat teams that have won 36 games, and they've lost to teams that have lost 27. So this says Vegas is the better team. Now, generally, with this kind of difference, add in the home field edge, Vegas should be about a 7-point favorite in this game based on those 2 criterias. Now, let's take a look at the situation this week. You've got Vegas should be about a 7.5-point favorite, about a 7-point favorite. By the way, they're a 1.5-point favorite. They are favored by 1.5 at home. Now let's take a look at the situation this week. We're going to click on Vegas. They just played on a Thursday and beat Dallas, so they're full of momentum. But they had Friday off, Saturday off, Sunday off, and all this week they're prepping for Washington. And what we found in the past and going through it and following teams, generally I love to play on teams after Thanksgiving. It's like a super added advantage. You get your game out of the way. You've got 3 extra days, 4 extra days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 extra days to prepare for your opponent. That's a great situation. That by itself is a great situation. But what's Washington off of? There's always been a thing where if you play against the home team that won on a Monday night, you've got a great record. Well, guess what? Washington was playing on Monday night. So they're on a short week. Monday night, they beat Seattle 17-15. Close game, down to the wire. All the way here, 17-15 is your final score. A very tight game. Seattle missed a 2-point conversion at the end, which would have tied it. Now, Washington not only playing on a short week, but they're traveling from Washington all the way over to Las Vegas. A long trip against a rested team at home. I would think that even heightens the home edge a little bit. This is also Vegas's only home game in a 4-week span. They're at Dallas. uh, home to Washington, at Kansas City, at Cleveland. So it's a very, very important game. Both teams are battling for the playoffs. Los Angeles got a huge situational edge. Washington is playing on a short week. Las Vegas has got extra rest. A lot of advantages. I think the Raiders should actually be 7+ favorite in this game, and they're only laying 1.5. So let's take advantage of it. We're going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders -1.5 over Washington. All right, I'm going to take a quick break and be back with you with your specials and some more selections, by the way. So let's wrap it up now with the second part. Once again, the second part's just to save my voice, but you guys don't even notice the difference. We've got one game left for you. Now, normally I give you 8 games, right, guys? But, of course, we normally have 65 college FBS games. Generally, there's about 60 FCS games and 16 NFL games to go over. Naturally, with the shortened card this week, there's 11 FBS games, 9 FCS games this week. So that's why I cut it back to 4. Plus, I'm trying to protect a record. But I promise you a special. Here's your special. It's for you guys. Let's quickly go over the tour with the quick hitters. 25 and 11, 69% the last 3 weeks. One of the reasons I'm trying to protect that record, I like that record. That includes the quick hitters, by the way. But the Inside the Press Box Tour special is this. Right now, you can get the postseason Inside the Press Box, college and NFL. There's going to be 6 bowl issues. There's like 40 bowl games. So each issue will have 6, 7, 8 bowl games in it. You'll get a ton of best bets in there as well. And I've spaced it out into 6 because with all the players opting out, what if 3 players opt out 2 days after I put it out? So we're going to release them later. We're not just going to put up all the bowls at once and then be wondering why I put that bowl game up 2 weeks in advance. So you'll get 6 bowl issues, which are $20 a piece, 4 NFL playoff issues, which are $20 a piece. So that's a $200 value. But that's generally the price for the postseason is $89, and that's the price right now. So you can get all the bowls, all the playoffs for $89. But your special is this. If you sign up today, you will get this week's Inside the Press Box Conference Championship Week. Now, that includes 11 FBS games. I break down all 11 games for you. Like I said, I type these in myself, do all the research myself. It's all in there. You get 11 games in the FBS. You also get all 9 FCS games, and I've highlighted my top 4. When you get to them and you look at the bottom, if it's underlined, it's got the spread, and I also say in the text, this is one of my top 4 plays. Then it's one of my top 4 FCS plays. They're not official plays. Let's face it, it's a smaller card, and the lines are pretty decent, but I do have 4 plays in the FCS, so we'll see how that goes out. And that's all in this week's edition. So just go to Inside the Press Box. Let's see, if we go to the store here, homepage, and we go to the store, here is Inside the Press Box, Inside the Press Box, Inside the Press Box, NFL and College. Looking for the postseason. There it is. Inside the Press Box, College and Pro postseason, $89. You click on that. Once you click on that and sign up, you'll get this week's issue, which has all 20 college games in it. You'll get that for free at $20 value. Plus, the other thing you get Phil Steele Plus for free. So if you haven't already signed up for Phil Steele Plus, it's $69. You get that free with any Inside the Press Box subscription. So your $89 gets you a $289 value. You get the 10 issues of Press Box. You get the Championship Week issue, and then you also get Phil Steele Plus. And I know a lot of you guys have been watching this, and they're thinking about signing up for Phil Steele Plus. If you haven't already, give you a discount today. If you just want Phil Steele Plus for the rest of the season, all the way through the Super Bowl, it's normally $69. Go ahead and sign up for the $69. Type in the code word champion. It's yours for $49. That's a ridiculously low price. You get all of December, all of January. That's less than it comes out to like $5 a week, and you get access to all this stuff that I have on Phil Steele Plus. So the code word there is champion. No code word necessary on the postseason. That way, if you already had signed up for the postseason and you're like, hey, how come I don't get that deal? You get that deal. If you're signed up for the postseason, you get this week's issue for free of the colleges. So just go to the store and sign up for that. Once again, this price is $89, gets you 10 issues here, plus this bonus issue, plus Phil Steele Plus, or just Phil Steele Plus, $49. Let's get to that last game that we're going to look at. And I clicked on the wrong thing. I should have clicked on FCS info and click on team pages. And over here, we're going to put East Tennessee State. And they are taking on Kennesaw State. Now, Kennesaw State's off an impressive win, right? They beat Davidson 48-21 last week. Only problem is I had Davidson rated number 100 out of all the teams in the FCS. Expected them to win big last week. And that's an advantage for East Tennessee State. And I'll explain that to you in a minute. Kennesaw State does have only one loss this year to Georgia Tech. If you look at these two teams, Eastern Tennessee State plays in a little tougher division, and Eastern Tennessee State only has one loss, and that was at Chattanooga. But look at this. East Tennessee State beat Vanderbilt 23-3. Now, if you look at the players on here, your best player on the field on offense is Quay Holmes. Quay Holmes has rushed for 1,431 yards, 6 yards per carry. Tyler Riddell also heating up late in the season. You could get the individual player stats on all FCS things right here. You could say where Riddell this past week hit 26 of 29 for 265 against Mercer. Mercer only has 3 losses all year, and one of them was to Alabama. So he's having a pretty good year. Quay Holmes is the guy to watch. 212 yards here against Western Carolina, 132 here. He's rushed for 1,431 yards. Now, if you click on the forecast on any FCS team, it gives you a complete breakdown on the team. You learn about their history, where they've been, how many times have they made the playoffs. You learn what the offense has this year, what the defense has this year, kicker. And then here is your final category here, which is your wrap-up and whether or not they're a contender. As you see, I called them, with all 22 starters back, a legitimate contender for the league title. And they lived up to that reputation with just one loss all year. The main thing I like in this game, and you guys know I like to have things preparing against the option. Well, here's the difference here. If you look at East Tennessee State, they faced an option team in Wofford, and they faced an option team in the Citadel. They held them to 246. They held them to 330. That's 576 yards, and that would be 280 yards would be about the average that they've allowed in the game's total. Now, if you look at the rating here, as far as what they've held their opponents to, they've held their opponents to 48 and 63 yards per game below their season average. So that's 55 yards per game below their season average. They do well against the option. Now, I mentioned Kennesaw State was a 23.5-point favorite last week. You expected them to win. East Tennessee State had last week off. What do you think East Tennessee State was preparing for? Do you think they were doing double preparation, preparing for Davidson and Kennesaw State? I don't think so. I think they were preparing for the option of Kennesaw State because it pretty much was a no-brainer. Kennesaw State was going to beat Davidson last week. So you have a team that's faced the option twice, had a bye week prior to the option, and is facing it here in this game. They've got the best offensive player on the field. There's a lot of advantages here in this game. Plus, East Tennessee State plays a lot better at home. When you look at them at home, they are plus 148 yards per game. They are minus 33 yards per game on the road. So you have an East Tennessee State off a bye with extra time to prepare for the option that's faced 2 option offenses and held both of them to a combined or to an average of 56 yards below their season average. And also Kennesaw State's offense is not overwhelming. They're actually averaging 13 yards below what their opponents normally allow. So it's not an overwhelming offense, one that they've prepped for. Add it all up. East Tennessee State is one of my top 4 plays that you'll get in this week's Inside the Press Box. East Tennessee State plus 3 at home over Kennesaw State as my FCS play. And I'd like to thank you guys for taking the tour with me this week. I know we didn't get you as many selections as usual, but it's quality over quantity, I say. And let's keep this record rolling along, including the quick hitters the last 3 weeks, 25-11, 69%. Next week, it's Army-Navy, but I'll have the first-year bowl games. And, of course, we'll have more NFL for you as I start to study the NFL a little bit more. Now, this is week 2 of the magazine we're heading into. Week 1 is almost done. We started the magazine this Sunday after the games were complete. This past week, 40-some teams had their season complete. We're already working on them, a 6.5-month process for the magazine. I'll be back with you next week, guys, on Friday morning, maybe even Thursday morning. We'll see how it goes. I'll have the FCS for you as well. And thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour with Selections.